Okay, so what have we got here? I went to the car boot sale today and I bought a few bits and pieces, and this is one of them. So let's get it out of the bag and you can see what I purchased. Okay, get rid of the bag. So, you may ask, why have I bought this? I mean, clearly it's another gramophone of some description. It's in camera shot. Got a few cameras running on this today. Yes, well, well, what is it? It's well, it claims to be a Decca 50 actually. There's actually a little logo here that says Decca 50, but I think the parts probably are from a Decca 50, but clearly it's not the way it came out of the factory. And in fact, you can see here that it's got either Phillips or possibly even posi drive. They're more likely to be posi drive screws if they're from the UK. Screws there holding on this escutcheon. And the case, well, the case is made of pine. It's been decorated. It's got various logos on. And it looks like it was probably done a while ago, not maybe a huge time ago. I don't know if we can see there. There's a bracket thing in there. Is that visible? And maybe we'll angle it up with this camera over here. There's this bracket in here. That looks familiar. That's the sort of standard DIY style fixing that you can buy. So I don't know, it's done a huge time ago, but yeah, it looks like somebody has taken the mechanics of a Decca 50 and recased it, presumably because there was a problem with the original casing. Now, I saw this. I really wasn't going to buy this. I saw it and thought, no, I just absolutely do not need this. This is just going to take up space in the workshop. It doesn't give me anything really. I do have a broken or an incomplete Decca 10. And it's possible that the parts from this might be usable to put that back into order, but that machine's kind of never going to be quite right, as it's had an extra hole drilled in the case. So I'm not sure, but anyway, this turned out this was actually only going to cost me £5. The guy who sold it didn't know anything about it, didn't know if it worked, and was quite happy to let it go for £5. So I thought I'll buy it for parts. Now, I didn't actually check that it worked. I don't know why. Maybe the £5 was sufficiently cheap enough that I wasn't worried, and I didn't actually bother to see if it was in working order. I mean, I can tell by just the general sort of gunkiness and you know how stiff that is there, that you know it's not been used in a while. And another sort of bad telltale sign is that there are missing screws. There clearly were screws in the top, and they're missing. And it's like, well, if it was all together and working, then why would somebody take those screws out? So anyway, the winding handle's in. Let's, I think that's the brake there. Let's give it a bit of a wind. Not a whole lot going on there. No, that doesn't look desperately encouraging. I mean, the fact that it turns at all implies there's a spring in the barrel, but there's probably some sort of problem. I'd expect it to be doing a little bit more than that by now. So I'm going to have to look at that. So before I go any further, I just want to make it clear that this is not a tutorial. It's just an entertainment video on me trying to get this machine running. I may get things wrong, and this video should not be taken as advice or instruction. Thank you. I suppose a few other things to note. The sound box, it's got clearly the wrong sound box. It's got a Columbia sound box which is has been attached by means of a small pipe here. Don't know if you can see that. So that's sort of been jammed on. So that's definitely not the Decca one. Whether the tone arm is Decca or not, I'll probably be able to figure out. You can see the turntable kind of wants to spin, and there's not been any weird noises from inside the case. So there is hope yet. What else is worth having a look at? I suppose it's worth having a look at. We've got the needle tin there, and actually, if I hold it up, oh, that's, well, it's just trying to turn. Where we are, there's this camera here. Let's put it on this camera here. There's the clip there that attaches the turntable to the motor spindle. So that's nice to have that. A few random used needles which are not so useful. Well, I say they're used, they're almost certainly used. Okay, let's put the brake back on. I'm going to take the winding handle out, put that to one side, and we'll lift the mechanism out. Now, just put that to one side just for the minute. I don't think there's anything really of note in the case. Very solidly constructed using pine by the looks of it, and just sort of standard DIY style mounting brackets. So I don't know when it dates to, but it's a lot more recent than the actual mechanism. So anyway, that's not very interesting. So let's put the case down somewhere. Let's have a little look at the mechanism. Now, I really should have got some paper or something. Maybe we'll just go and grab something to put underneath it. So here are a couple of sheets of grubby paper, and let's see if we can actually examine what we've got here. So we've got well, we've got the horn. I mean, in a recent video I talked about hornless machines, what happened to the big horn, and it's a video that if you haven't watched, then maybe you'd like to go and watch that one. It's, hopefully you'll find it quite interesting, but this I think demonstrates that even a machine with apparently no horn does actually have an internal horn. This is sort of fairly typical of, I think, Decca gramophones. So it's got a little horn, it's inside, and it actually works fairly well. So we got that, and it looks like that's kind of sort of like nailed in place. I don't know, actually. It's kind of loose, that end. Inclined to take that off, actually, if I can. I don't know how it's attached. It does actually look a lot like there's just a nail in there. So let's see if we can we just take that off? Don't like nails. I prefer things to screw together, but this is no, that doesn't want to go. Probably could detach the horn by taking out a couple of screws. You can see quite clearly though that the woodwork is just somebody's just made up the woodwork here to take the parts. Right, so that will work, but that's the wrong size screwdriver. I actually need something that's a little bit bigger. This is what happens when you do impromptu videos. With flat-headed screws or slotted screws, you really need a screwdriver that fits well. That fits better than the first one I tried. So we'll take these two screws out, see if we can get rid of this horn. Or not rid of this horn, but take the horn off. No, that's still not really a very good fit. Let's try that one. Right. Okay, so that's out. Not the most elegantly done, but there we go. And which camera should we use? Maybe we'll use this camera here. You can see the horn. So we put that to one side. So what else is worth looking at? Well, I think it's probably worth trying to get the platter off the turntable. Oh, sorry, the platter off the motor. So I'm just watching it going around here and thinking, well, it's trying. There doesn't seem to be anything very obvious in terms of gunge or anything. Now this is not a fix, and this stuff is pretty nasty. Got plenty of warnings and stuff. Highly flammable. Don't breathe it in. But I'm just going to give it a very small sort of like squirt around the governor and see. It's very odd. Can we get the platter off? Let's put the brake on. I've got this piece of wood underneath, right. So I'm using a piece of wood, I'm using a plastic mallet. Right, so that's off. So there's nothing untoward under there. No, it's that motor I just don't think is functioning. Right, well it's some time later and I was going to leave the video just there, but I did have another idea, and unfortunately I did this off camera, but I actually applied a little bit of WD-40 to the top of the spindle, sort of in there, and I did that and it magically sprung to life. The motor started running. Well, it's run down now, but I'm going to put a little bit in the top as well, just a little bit in there. And give it a wind. Don't want that dripping anywhere. So winding, the winder's at the front of this machine, which is slightly unusual. Right, let's lift that up. Hopefully you can get a good view on one of the cameras. Now if you're enjoying this video, then how about giving it a like? Thank you. Right, so I'm spinning, sorry, I'm winding it, and you can see immediately that it's just sprung to life. Now the motor is actually relatively clean, so it does look like it was just gummed up. And if I move the speed control, so that's going to be, let's have a look, that's fast. If I move it back, so basically the little pad pushes onto the disc here and causes it to slow down, or in this case stop. So we'll give it a bit more of a wind. So this motor certainly could do with some cleaning, but essentially it does run. So really the next thing to try is to see whether it runs enough to actually play a record. So I'm going to put the platter back on. In fact, if we move that to slow, that might help. Slow the spindle down. Put the platter back on. Because with the platter on, I can then use the brake. So right. And the other thing I'm going to do is actually give the tone arm just a little bit of WD-42. Now WD-40 is a solvent. It's not lubrication, but it can help free up sort of gummed up parts. So sort of in here it's very stiff. That's not going to work very well at all. So put something under it like that. Okay. Right. Certainly better than it was. In fact, we might try some actual oil in there too. Well, it's by no means perfect, but it's a little better than it was. It should really sort of flop back and forth, but it's not. Try a bit more oil. You can see the gunge that's coming off there. That's just dried oil. This will actually come completely off. In fact, there's a weird screw under here actually, which definitely not standard. I'm wondering whether that's actually causing a problem. Let's see if we can get that on a camera. Just here. So I'm just going to see if I can loosen that off. Now this screwdriver's not really the right size. Not sure if that's actually doing anything. And the reason I'm spending so much time on this bit is because if the joint is too stiff, it will actually cause problems. And it will actually cause wear on the record. So what I've done there is I think there's a screw thread in here. I think basically this screws in, and I think what the situation was, it was probably screwed in too tightly. So I've actually, by sheer luck, I've wound it out just a little bit, and you can see a bit more of that gunge is coming out. So Yeah, so now that sort of flops down, which is what I want. Okay, so that's the tone arm. Well, sorted out a little bit. So just have a little tidy up here. So I'm going to put it back in the box, and I'm not actually going to worry about the horn. So we're going to put that in like that. Oh yes, of course, need to take the winding handle out. And we'll go with this sound box, I think, for the minute, if we can. Doesn't fit on very well. That's not really going to work very well at all. It's too loose. I mean, will this piece of copper piping come out? Yeah, not sure how that was attached. It was on. It was on. It just a push fit. Now, if I could get that piece of piping out, which I'm sure I can, I would be able to fit another sound box, because it's just got a standard fitting. But just because I want to try all the bits that sort of came with this machine. Just see if we can get it working. That's too much. Just needs a little bit of tape, I think. Just see if we can get it working at all. Just as it was. Because presumably somebody actually had this machine and used this machine. It's odd. Now it wants to be tight without the paper. Maybe there's a knack to this. Maybe it just goes on. You can see the sort of just mucking around that I end up having to do off camera just to make things work. Right, so that's kind of a reasonable angle. Sounds like that might actually work. So we'll put the tone arm over there somewhere. See if we can find the crank hole. So that, yeah, brakes on. So wind it in so that it actually engages. Wind it up as much as I can. And even though this isn't a tutorial, I'm just trying to get this machine to work. I'm winding until it gets stiff. Now it started to get a bit stiff. I don't want to overdo it. There's always a possibility that the spring might just break. Right, I think that's probably enough. There's actually two springs on these motors. There's the main spring, but there's also the little spring that stops the crank flying back. And if that one breaks, then the crank will just fly back at high speed and cause injury and damage. So there's actually 2 springs, so and either one, as I said, can break. Right, got a record. Going to use a brand new medium tone needle. Put that in the sound box. I haven't inserted it all the way in, but I've inserted it quite a bit. That screw feels like it's going to work. So, shall we see if it wants to play? Maybe we'll move it just a little bit this way, then it's nicely in camera shot, I think. And there we are, success. So a useful motor there. Certainly got a spring good enough to play a whole record. It would have sounded better with the internal horn fitted, but even so, I think still an enjoyable experience. Anyway, if you've got any comments, then please leave them below. And thanks for watching. And if you've enjoyed this video, then maybe you'll like this one too. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.